Welcome into the Swamp Speak podcast, your source for everything Florida sports. I'm your host, Greg Luca, and I'm joined today by Allison Banko.
Hi, everybody.
And Josh Jurnovoy.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, so we're going to get started talking about a little bit of Florida basketball. Yesterday, in the O'Connell Center, they beat Vanderbilt 75-63. Josh, what was something that you thought was key to that victory for Florida?
I watched the whole game, and I thought what kind of jumped out to me was that it seemed like it was a game of runs. The Gators would get up by a lot, and then Vanderbilt would all of a sudden go on a 8 or 7-0 run, and then the Gators would kind of come back. But what seemed like the key to me, what kept letting the Gators pull away, was Vanderbilt not being able to take care of the basketball. I know they only finished with a few more turnovers than Florida. I think it was 17-14. But it seemed like when the Gators were at their best, they would make a basket, and their full-court press really just kind of smothered Vanderbilt. They really didn't seem to have an answer for inbounding the ball a lot of times, and the Gators would score, Vanderbilt would try and inbound, and the Gators would come back and get another layup. And I think it led to more runs for Florida than it ultimately did for Vanderbilt, and that was one of the biggest differences in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really agree with you on that. It was 17 turnovers for Vanderbilt, and the Florida press was a real problem. You saw a couple of times where Kenny Boynton in particular was able to get a steal right off the inbound and then hit a layup or a dunk and get Florida some quick points that way. Another player who I thought was really key in Florida's win was Brad Beal. Talk about what you saw from him.
Well, definitely. I think we thought that he needed to have a pretty good game offensively. He didn't necessarily. He had a very good game rebounding the basketball against South Carolina, and he came out with, I would say, an even more complete game yesterday. He finished with 16 points, had a couple of very nice three-pointers, and had a very good dunk where he just kind of blew by Tinsley at one point. And I think he really was a presence on offense, and he continued to rebound the ball well. I think he finished with about 6 or 7 rebounds, and that was really the difference. He's really kind of settled into the 3 role for them and been able to not only score the ball, but really probably be one of the biggest rebounding presences on the team throughout the year.
Right, yeah. Beal finished with 16 points and 7 rebounds. It was 5 of 10 shooting, and he was very, very steady presence for them. He's been one of their best rebounders all season, and lately he's cut down on turnovers, which were a problem early in the year, and he started to shoot a better percentage. I think it's over the last 7 games, he's about 45% from outside, so major improvement from him there. And they'll need that to continue going into this Tuesday where they're heading to face Kentucky. Kentucky's the number 1 team in the nation. They haven't lost since December 10th. And they haven't lost a game at home in the last 48. They're on a 48-game home winning streak. So, Josh, what do they have to do to beat Kentucky on Tuesday?
They need to do a lot of things, and even if they do a lot of things, I still am not quite sure it's going to be enough, even if they play as well as they possibly can. They really... just watching Kentucky, I just really don't see how anyone's going to go into up and beat them. And the Gators got quite a few shots blocked against South Carolina. DeMontre Harris, I think, blocked about 6 shots. If almost every single Gator had a shot blocked by him, does that mean every single Gator is going to have 3 shots blocked by Anthony Davis?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that would be the correlation there. Anthony Davis is blocking almost 5 shots a game. He averages more blocks per game than the whole Florida team, and has been just a monster inside. And then on top of that, you have guys like Terrence Jones and Doron Lamb, who are just really, really strong players for Kentucky and complete mismatches. And, I mean, who's the player that you think has to step up if Florida's going to have a big game and pull off the upset on Tuesday?
I think Irving Walker could potentially really have a big game. He's, in the past, really been disrupted by the length of Kentucky, but I think possibly Marquise Teague could be a pretty good matchup for him. He definitely doesn't necessarily present the length as a lot of guys who they have thrown at him in the past, and maybe if he can really have one of his better games and still distribute the ball well and put the guys in a good position to score without away from Anthony Davis. If he can just find guys open and really give guys open looks, because if you try and shoot anywhere near that guy, it's going to get blocked.
Yeah, Teague's a guy who's been better about turning the ball over his last couple of games, but that's been a problem throughout his freshman season, and he's also not shot it very well. So if they can attack that weak link and maybe pressure like they did against Vanderbilt, they'll have a shot to win that game, but it would take a lot of things going right and a lot of things for Kentucky going wrong. Josh, do you have a score prediction for Tuesday?
Score prediction? I think Kentucky wins. I think they win mainly because I just saw how much more overwhelming they were against South Carolina, whereas the Gators let them back in the game. Kentucky just kind of stepped on it. And I think the Gators might keep it close for a while, but Kentucky probably pull away at the end and win by double digits. I'd say something along the lines of maybe 82-69.
Yeah, that's about where I'm going with it, too. I think Kentucky should be able to win by 11 or 12 points in this game, and if not, it'll certainly be surprising. Switching topics a little bit, something you guys have been worried about is you've been covering some baseball stuff. Allison, didn't you talk about this? How's practice been going, and when's the season get underway?
All right, well, practice, they're about a week deep into full team practices as of not this past Friday, but the Friday before. Season starts on February 17th against Cal State Fullerton. Practice, so far from what Sully's been saying and what the players have been saying, it's been going real well. They're definitely saying that they're not where they want to be at by the end of the season at this point, but they're definitely getting there. I think one of the most exciting things that we have to look forward to is, obviously the team has a lot of good kids returning on their roster. You've got that whole CWS team for the most part coming back. But the freshmen are really, really impressive. In last week's scrimmages, I think one of the freshman catchers, Taylor Gushu, if I didn't butcher his name, he hit a 2-run homer in practice. And this is a kid who gave up his senior season. He graduated early to come to UF and play for the Gators. So I think, we've got a lot of promise from these freshman guys. And with Josh Adams leaving second base, he was a real asset to the Gators last season and, throughout his 4 years at UF. And you've got 2 freshmen essentially in the top runners for that position, which is, saying a lot. You've got Josh Tobias and you've got Casey Turgeon.
That's my boy.
Yeah, he's a beast. Sully's got a lot of positive things to say about he and Josh. And Casey, I think, as for what the players have been saying, looks to be the front runner for that spot. His name is kind of arose earlier before, all this spring media because he did get in a nasty scooter accident in the fall.
Yikes.
But Sully said he's back, he's 100% healthy, and apparently he's been performing pretty well.
I'm cheering for Josh Tobias to win the job. He's not my boy because his name is Josh. He's my boy because his last name is Tobias. And Tobias is my middle name. I still cannot get over this. It just blows my mind that they have a guy named Josh Tobias, and my first 2 names are Josh Tobias.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I did.
So, they're coming back as the number 1 team in the nation. Josh, what makes them so strong? Why are they so highly thought of heading into this season?
They lost a little bit, but they really did not lose probably the most important key to their success last year, which was their weekend rotation. They have everyone returning there with Brian Johnson, Hudson Randall, and Carson Whitson, who I expect to really be a horse for the Gators this season. He showed great potential last year, but he still almost rarely pitched more than 5 innings a game, and I think they're going to be able to stretch his arm out a little more. Has the best stuff in the rotation and probably pitched the fewest innings out of anyone that had that many starts last year. And if he's going to be able to go 6-7 innings, and with how good their bullpen is going to be in the back end with Paco Rodriguez and Austin Maddox, with Hudson Randall and Brian Johnson being guys already capable of taking a game into the 7th inning, they're just going to be so hard to score on, and that's what's going to make them so good.
Allison, do you agree that the pitching rotation is the strength of this team at this point?
I think that's hard to say. I mean, they do have a strength with their weekend rotation, but Sully said, one of the biggest things is they have to find their middle relief guy. They haven't found him yet. So that's something that's still developing, and, even though those aren't as big as those weekend series, I think that's going to prove to be an important asset. And, Maddox, who's, at the back end of the bullpen, didn't have a great season last year, and I think it'll be interesting to see if he really rises to the occasion and performs well, or if, he crushes under pressure. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, luckily for them, they still have a couple of weeks to get it straightened out before the season comes along. I guess that's going to do it for us this week. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll be closer to baseball if it hasn't already started, and we'll surely have plenty of basketball stuff to talk about with the SEC and NCAA tournaments right on the horizon. So we will see you next week, and until then, thanks for listening.